Welcome back, guys. Just another quick video here working on these old jet skis. We're going to talk about carbon seals, and I already have another video that you can look at about how to actually go through the whole process. But this one, we're going to talk about something a little bit different here, which is these different parts and stuff you need to be aware of. So, just kind of the basics here is. I've gotten this taken apart here, but that's the PTO boot and that's the through hull fitting. And the drive shaft goes through all of that. And then there's this thing called we call it a hat, but it's also called a floating ring, I think. And it's a stainless steel piece that's got a very smooth, perfect surface on it. And it slides on this shaft, and there's a C-clip right here that slides on that. And then there's a carbon ring. This is the actual carbon seal part of it here, the carbon ring that presses up against that hat. And what causes it to press up against that hat is this boot, or otherwise known as a bellows. And then that basically is clamped to your through hull fitting. There's a clamp here on your carbon seal, and it's intended to push up against this hat. But here's the thing is it can't be too tight and it can't be too loose. It's got to be perfect, or darn near perfect. And I found that out, tested it. I knew about it, but I thought I would check it anyway. So on this particular ski, what happened was, so these are three different bellows here, and they all look the same, don't they? They all look identical, but they are all three different in their flimsiness and stiffness, etc. So this one, if I've got these in the right order, is the one that was on the ski when I got the ski. Don't know where it came from. It's obviously aftermarket, but I'm just going to push down. See how easy that squishes? So that's way too flimsy, and this particular ski had problems down in the carbon seal area. And so I had this aftermarket one that I've had for a couple of years, and I got a new carbon seal for it. That's this one right here. We'll talk about that in a second. And I figured I needed to replace this bellows because it's just too flimsy. And so I just thought I would try this one, knowing that it was a little tight, and I had understood from others that too tight is not good. It'll press that carbon seal too firmly against the hat, and it'll actually heat up and eventually cause damage to the carbon seal and cause it to prematurely wear or even break apart. So I tested that, water tested it, and just rode it for just a little bit, like 30 seconds, and then checked it, and sure enough, it was red hot down there. So that was a signal to take it all back apart and not go any further. So I have since sourced OEM bellows, and this is the third one. And so that one's squishy. This one's hardly pushes down at all. Takes a lot of strength to do it. It was actually kind of hard to get in the ski. But this one, when I push on it, it's just about right. It's got enough, kind of hard to see this on video, but it's got enough squish where it's got good resistance, but it's firm and it's not resistant. So kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We've got too little, too big, but this one is just right. So on these rings here, these hats, the OEM ones look like this. Notice how thin that is. So most of the replacement OEM ones, and even the aftermarket ones too, are thicker. So this is an OEM replacement I got from OSD Marine, and it's thicker. You can see this is brand new, and after just running it a little bit, it already has some discoloration here from overheating. So I'm gonna clean that up a little bit, but I can feel it with my my thumbnail there, and it's not damaged, it's fine. So I'm gonna reuse that. And then a thing on the carbon seals is the original ones, and some of the aftermarket ones you can see have a little bit of a short shank there. But if you compare that to, you know, the better replacement ones, again, this came from OSD Marine. Look, you've got a lot bigger shank there, so more area to clamp to, and also makes it a little stronger as well, so it doesn't crack. Last thing that I'll mention here is those little O-rings inside here that you have to replace. Your kit should come with O-rings. When you put those inside there, put just a little small amount of grease in there. Don't over thicken those trenches up in there, because what happens is, and you can see this in my other video, actually did happen, is I over greased them and put them in there, and I couldn't get this to go on the shaft no matter how hard I pushed. And some of these aftermarket ones, they're machined a little tighter. At least that's what people believe, and that could be true. This is not an aftermarket one. This is an OEM one. But I have put OEM ones on these before and over-greased those O-rings inside there, and it'll have the same behavior. You won't be able to push it on the shaft. So I took the O-rings out on that ski, cleaned them up, and cleaned the grease out from inside of those trenches. Not washed it out with anything, just cleaned out the excess and put it back together, and it went right on. So keep that in mind. Don't over-grease those things, or it's just going to be harder to put it together. So that is all I have for you guys. I just wanted to let you know that all of these bellows are never the same. You need to find one that's just right. Oh, and the last thing, probably the most important thing I forgot to mention, is what these seals actually do. When you have them like this and the carbon seal is mating up against this surface here, the purpose is to have just enough pressure where there's a little bit of a water layer in between them. It doesn't need to be tight. It needs to be snug. And that's something that's hard to measure. You just have to have a feel for it. And maybe we'll see at the end of this video, if I remember to do it, I'll show you about what that feel looks like. But you want to be able to reach down with your fingers and push it back a little bit. That's okay, and move it around and wiggle it. But it needs to fit pretty firm on the hat here, but not real tight, you know, or you'll get this overheated condition, and you'll prevent the water from, you know, getting in there and creating a little seal. It needs to have just a little bit of water for it to work right, but not too much that you get cavitation from drawing back through the carbon seal, that kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense, and keep an eye on your carbon seals and engine alignment, and make sure your shaft has bumpers on both ends. We've got it all back in place here, and I just wanted to show you how it came out. It came out just about spot on as you can be. So right down on here, if you look, I'm just going to take 2 fingers, and you can see I can pull back on it. It's got a little bit of pressure, but it's just gently snugging up against it, and that's what you want, just like that. And then I'm actually going to run it a little bit here. I normally don't run this on the hose, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because I want to just have a look at the pissers. But you don't have to run it on the hose. That's just to keep the engine from getting too hot. But if you do, you don't want, I normally don't run these things for more than 15 or 20 seconds at most, ever. Usually it's just 5 seconds or so. But if you do run it a little bit longer, make sure you pour some water on this carbon seal, which is what I have this little cup of water here for. Is I just pour a little bit on it like this as it's running to keep it wet and cool. But we're going to kick it over and test it here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down there and I'm going to hold this and feel how hot it is. And it's just a little bit warm. You know, definitely not red hot like it used to be. The last time I did this exact same test with that thicker bellows I just showed you, it was obviously hot, you know, definitely getting hot. So we'll water test it next and see if it stays cool enough. But I'm pretty sure that this has got this one fixed. So hope this helps, and thanks for watching.